to Soul of Travel podcast. I'm your host, Christine, and I'm very excited today to be joined by Mickela Mallozzi, who is the host of Bare Feet. And we were introduced last year, just about this time at Women's Travel Fest. And I have been a big fan of your show. I love being able to show it to my daughters and tell them that I've met you because, that makes me feel extra special, but they also think it's really cool and they love dance and they love travel. So it's like the perfect show for them to learn about the world. But we're going to get into all of that in just a moment. First, I want to just turn it over to you to introduce yourself and tell our listeners a little bit more about you and your program.
Yeah, thank you, Christine, and great to see you again. I know, I can't believe it's been a year. And yeah, Bare Feet is a travel series where I like to say I make new friends by dancing with strangers. So in every destination, I learn the dance and music from the people of that place, whether that's tango in Buenos Aires or I'm learning hip hop in the Bronx and everywhere in between. I've been doing this. I started this project 14 years ago, almost to the day. And it's been an incredible journey. We're in pre-production. We start filming season 7 very soon, which is a miracle in itself. When I think about it, it's just like, I can't believe we made it this far, but it's a real honor and privilege to be able to share what I love so much. Not only am I the host of the show, but I'm the executive producer and creator of the show. And so this is sort of my brainchild and passion project and insanity idea. And we're still kicking, and it's been a joy. It's been a real joy.
Yeah, thank you. And congratulations, because I know what it takes to keep something like this going, not on the scale of what you're doing, but anything that's such a passion project. And then you add travel and you add production, like there's so many pieces that it's like just a constant effort to keep everything juggled. So kudos to being able to like live that true like passion and keep bringing it to the rest of us to enjoy as well. And I know we'll talk a little bit more about kind of that alignment of life and living and career as we get into this, because I know that's something that you're so lucky to do and to do well. But what I first want to hear from you about is where you got into travel. Like, was that something that happened for you really early on, or was that something that happened later in your life?
Yeah, so I come from a family of immigrants. My parents were both born in southern Italy. And I grew up with my grandparents on a phone call every Sunday. We'd call Italy and talk to my nonna and nonno every Sunday. And I got a passport when I was really young. I was 2 years old when I made my first international trip. We didn't travel often, but when we did, it was to my grandparents' house. So I maybe traveled under the age of 18, maybe 3 or 4 times to Italy. And it was this beautiful experience of immersing myself in the culture because they were my family, but also it was work. I do a lot of speaking engagements, and I always have this slide up of me slaughtering a chicken with my grandmother. I'm 2 years old in our little farm. And that was travel for me. It was this very immersive. It wasn't like we go to the beach and go on vacation. And my family, we would spend almost a month there because we were helping work on the farm. And for my family to spend all that money to take our family, all 4 of us, to Italy was very expensive. So that to me was like travel. That's what travel meant. And it kind of stuck with me for the rest of my life, in that I don't just go and do nothing on a trip. I have to constantly be part of the community or part of the people. And that's translated into what Bare Feet is today. Fast forward, my very first international trip on my own was when I was 18. A dear friend of mine from high school, his father was getting remarried in Scotland. And so there was a huge American contingent that was coming over to Scotland. And I don't remember any of it. Like, I remember being really nervous. I don't remember the flight. I don't remember landing in Edinburgh. Like, I don't remember all the logistical parts, but there was a moment in the wedding where all these Americans were coming over and they were teaching us a ceilidh, which is like basically like the grandfather of square dancing, to prepare us for the wedding the next day. And that stuck with me. I mean, that's what I do for Bare Feet. Is I had so much joy. We were in this little sheep farm barn, And we're dancing to a little CD of learning this Kaylee. And me and my friend were dancing with all these other people. And I was like, this is the most amazing experience of my life. And since then, I've been like chasing that high and that joy of replicating that first kind of bare feet moment really in my life. I also had the privilege of studying abroad in college for a summer, and that was an amazing experience in Florence. And caught the travel bug and just would work and save up money so I could travel at least once a year. Um, when I became a dance teacher, I used travel to start teaching internationally and would kind of use it as a hub. So I really wanted to use work and play kind of interchangeably when I could. And I traveled inexpensively. You know, I'm not independently wealthy. Travel doesn't have to be expensive. And over the years, I found that because if I would go to a destination where I couldn't speak the local language, um, I would use dance to connect with people. And whether that was in a street fair or a holiday or street celebrations, I'm dancing with these folks. And then all of a sudden, I'm invited into their home, right, for a family lunch. Or one time we were salsa dancing in Mumbai, India, and that we're dancing with all these people. And they're like, it's my brother's wedding tomorrow. And we went to this Bollywood wedding the next day. And it was dance that led me to all these other magical experiences, not just the dancing. The dancing was brilliant and fun and so wonderful, but it was what came out of it that spawned bare feet. And like I said, that started when I was 18 on that very first trip. Was dance was this way of joyfully connecting with complete strangers. That's why when I say I make new friends by dancing with strangers, it's true. I've made all these communities of friends throughout the world just because I danced with them. And yeah, so travel has always been a part of my life in one way or another. I think my mom, I remember actually, she was a travel agent for a while in the 80s when I was a kid. I never went to daycare. She always took me around everywhere. And I used to sit under her desk reading all the brochures with like the airplanes. And I just loved travel. And it stuck with me. It really, I can't get rid of it. Like, I love it so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. And I feel like I can definitely see that when I watch your show. Like I can see that connection. And we're gonna talk even more about that later,
Yeah.
how that happens. But it is really magical, those moments. And then as you were sharing, the childhood moments of traveling, and especially like working while you travel. It reminded me of taking my daughters. We went to France earlier or last summer. And one of their very favorite things was visiting a friend of mine and staying in her home. And his family had been for like probably, I think they said 6 or 7 generations, beekeepers and farmers in that area. So they had, historic buildings and properties and all of this land. And we went and we like met the bees and saw where they bottled it, and like all these different family members would come in and they each had all these different roles. And my
Mhm.
kids were just, they were so blown away by seeing how that kind of a business ran, but also by being a part of the
Yeah,
experience.
yeah.
And they just like, by far that was one of their very favorite experiences, because I think they felt so deeply a part of something. They felt belonging, and they also felt like home, even
Mhm.
though we were halfway around the world. And I think that's something that's even more special when we travel, to have that experience. And I know you mentioned, like, a lot of people will think about travel as being like a place to relax and unwind and do nothing. And much like you, I'm like, oh, but there's so many opportunities to like do the something. There's so much here to see and do, and
Yeah.
so many people to meet. So I love how you shared how that has shaped all of these future experiences.
Yeah, it's funny. Not to discredit people relaxing because I've
Right.
started just when I hit 40. Okay. Like finally realizing I also do need to make time for rest. And that has been a learning curve for me, like in life in general. So but I still do it in places that are um, very easygoing and very much integrated in the community as much as I can. But I am realizing, like, wow, I need rest too. I need to just sit on the beach and do nothing for a couple days at least, or maybe a week. You know, like your body needs that. So not to discredit it, but that my go-to is to be busy always, always.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
definitely relate to that. And my favorite also is like a hammock and a book. That's like my one of my very favorite travel experiences. And I have to remember to like put that in there so that I won't get carried away. And I think when, you were talking about work is travel and travel is work, that is also hard, right? Because you don't want to miss the moment that could be the perfect thing for work when you're like just trying to be. Have you had a hard time finding that balance when you travel? Because every moment is really an opportunity for you to be discovering the next thing that might be the right story to tell, or you are telling the story as you're traveling. I know many like bloggers and writers and content creators and even travel designers find themselves kind of in that dilemma of how to be more present as a traveler and not as someone who's in the career of travel.
Yeah, I have to say it was really hard at the beginning, because at the beginning I was doing everything, right? I was filming myself, I was writing, I was more of a blogger, I was creating YouTube videos. Now it's a very separated system. I have a crew, that I hire, and we have to work well in advance of preparing all of the shoots and the storylines, and we work with the destinations. So it's a very different beast from when Bare Feet started. It's the same mission, right? Our mission is always to connect with the world through dance and music and the people that I get to meet. But I feel very lucky that I think it was almost detrimental. It was necessary. It was like this necessary evil to constantly be on and working when I was starting out, because I needed to create content, and I was so driven, and I was so inspired and excited by this idea. And then over the years, I've realized, in order to have, and there is no such thing as a work-life balance. It just doesn't really exist. And I'm not even a mother, so I don't even know what that whole thing is. But I do understand that I realized I had to treat this like a 9 to 5, like a job. Granted, when we're filming, it's 12-hour, 14-hour shoot day. So I can't treat it like a 9 to 5 when I'm on shoots. But I love to put my phone down. I'm also very lucky that I have a whole film crew filming my entire experience, right? So I don't need to document everything personally. I have a team that does that, because it's all of our jobs. It's a collective job that we're creating a piece, a very specific piece. And then we create some digital content. But when I travel for fun, I usually don't take that many photos, or not as much, because I really want to be present. I really want to remember these experiences with like this lens versus this lens, and it's been beautiful. It's been a real learning curve, because I was so used to thinking, oh, I have to document it and post it right away so that I can build a following and create this brand. And then, at some point I really had to be very conscious of, this is my job. Let's keep this very separate from when I'm not working. But of course, I meet someone and I'm like, oh, this would be a great feature in an episode. I'll give them my card and I'll follow up with them. I'm not going to try and film them on the spot. That's just not how we work. So, but yeah, the first half of the time, so like the first 7 years, 6, 7 years of creating this project was me never understanding when I could shut myself off or turn off. And I found that that was really detrimental to the people around me that loved me and that were in my life and in my like intimate circle. So I really had to make a conscious decision of, okay, I can't do this. It's not sustainable. It's not fun for me. At some point it wasn't becoming fun. And also it wasn't fun for the people and the people that love me around me. So, yeah, I mean, that's like the reality of it. It's a job. This is work. I have friends that kind of poke fun at me, like, you're always on vacation. I'm like, if you only knew the amount of work that goes into, they don't really say it anymore because now they see the fruits of my labor, but it was constantly this like, oh, you're always on vacation. And no, that's not the truth, but there has to be a time when you turn it off. Yeah. I also don't consider myself like an influencer. I'm not creating content solely for Instagram or videos that are based off of phone content or smaller content. And again, no discredit to people who do that. They're killing it. They're making incredible content, but we are a different medium and a different way of storytelling. And it's a much longer process. Like we're in pre-production. We've been in pre-production for season 7, starting from November of last year. So 2023. this new season won't come out until early 2025. So we have to film, we edit, we storyboard, we do the whole thing. And yeah, that's
Yeah.
the reality of what I do.
Yeah, thank you for the behind the scenes of that as well, because that was one of the questions I had for later on, and kind of trying to understand that, because I do think that's a question that people in travel get a lot, because it's such a like kind of magical industry, no matter what part of it that you're in, because people do love to travel and explore the world, and so they
Yeah.
get really drawn to a career in it, and they do kind of think, because when they travel, they're on vacation, that that must be kind of what our experience is constantly. And it's such a different feeling. And even I just was actually looking at your schedule and all of your travel and thinking, gosh, what does she do if she gets sick? Because I've been sick, I was telling you, for like the last
Yep.
month. And then I'm like, gosh, what, because you have to use your voice like I do. And I just started thinking about some of those more logistical details that we don't always think about in this like beautiful depiction of this work. And I'm sure, like me, you've also been someplace and been dreadfully ill, and it's not very fun. Like, that's some of the real reality that people don't understand, and like
Yeah.
constant time changes and language changes, and like it can be very jarring, and it is a lot more grueling than people might imagine.
Yeah. There's a real thing, like your adrenaline's pumping, I get sick very easily. So when I travel, I always wear a mask. If I'm on a train or I read the subway all the time. I live in New York City. You can see like a building behind me right now. If I'm on a train and I hear someone coughing or they're like visibly ill, like I leave, I go to another car, because I'm like, I can't afford to be sick because I'm probably flying within a week somewhere. And I do get sick. So I just have to be very conscious. I bring like, I'm so prepared when I'm on a trip, just in case I do get sick. Um, but I think there's this real idea or this real thing that happens when your body knows when it needs to be on. And so every time it without fail, like as soon as we finish filming the last production day of a shoot, I get home and I'm in bed for like 3 weeks because my body's like, okay, screw you. You've been treating us like crap. And now this is what you're going to feel like. Or like, as soon as we deliver the last episode to PBS, my body's like, okay, you're done for the next month. Like burnout's real. Your body knows when you don't have anything else to do. And they're like, you can finally rest and your adrenaline's gone. Like you've just depleted everything. So again, it's not the healthiest way to do things. It's just what happens, because I think I'm not clocking in every day to a regular job, you know? There's a reason I don't clock in every day to a regular job. I didn't want to. I created this job. I created this project that I am so in love with, and feel so lucky that it still exists and that people actually still watch it. And, without fans and viewers and also supporters and sponsors and funders, like this show wouldn't exist. So it's not for the faint of heart. I get so many emails like every week of like, hey, I want to do what you do. Can I pick your brain? Or how do you do this? How do I make a show on PBS? How do I get a show on TV? Or how do I get any of these questions? And my sister's she's amazing. And I call her sometimes like when I'm frustrated with things, and I'm so glad that people feel inspired by my work, but she's like, you make it look easy. And that's a compliment when people are just like, I want to do what you do. I love traveling. And I think I have a knack for it. And then they don't want to do the work when they find out all the work that comes from it. So I'm like, well, that's a great compliment. But at the same time, it's like,
Yeah.
just do it. I didn't know what I was doing. I had to figure it out. I had no TV background, no hosting background. And yeah, I mean, I mentor a lot of people. I love helping out folks, especially if I see myself in them, a little bit of myself in them. I'm like, yeah, this person really wants to do something and they have a great idea, and you can tell that there's passion behind it. But yeah, I get countless emails of just like, how do I do what you do? Help, do you have a good idea for me? I mean, I've had people say like, do you have any ideas for me? I don't even respond to those emails.
Yeah, that's really
I
hard
don't.
because you
Yeah.
have to be so attached to the idea that you are going to drag it up and down the mountain no matter what, because
Well,
yeah,
the
it's going to be so
audacity for
hard.
them to ask me, no, 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 before that is the audacity that they're asking me to help them come up with a creative idea.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's just lazy and you're not doing the work. So you're not going to do the work anyway.
Yeah.
Um, I've become very insular with my energy and and who I surround myself with. I love being inspired by people that are just as driven as I am, and if you're not, I just don't, I know this sounds really terrible, but like, I don't have the time anymore. I have
Yeah.
limited energy. I started this project when I was 28. I'm not that anymore. I just
Yeah.
I don't have that. So
Yeah. I mean, I think there's so much wisdom in what you're saying, and boundaries are hard for some people to receive, but they're so important for ourselves. And
yeah,
especially as we get older and we don't have the same energy that we had,
yeah,
and just the realization that we actually don't need to expound all of our energy. Like there's just that wisdom that comes as
yes,
well.
yeah.
And I think it's important, and I love that you're able to kind of pick who you think you can mentor. And then also it's important to have the hard conversations with some people too, because people will also ask me about, running trips and being a tour operator or running retreats. And they start saying, it's usually probably much like you, like the end product, like it looks so magical when you're all gathered in this space. And, the same, like, you're creating this beautiful show and that connection. And I can see myself doing that. And you're like, okay, but do you want to create the passenger manifest? Do you want to contact customs? Do you want to figure out, there's all of these, all the stuff that you don't see on the shiny billboard that makes that happen, that most people, once they hear about that, they're like, whew, I had no idea. So I think these conversations, not to deter all people from doing any of these
No,
things,
no, not
because
at
it's
all.
it's so great. And I know that we both love it so much. But
It's the iceberg concept,
yeah,
right? You only see
yes.
10% of an iceberg, the other 90%, that's, you see my TV show, you see the end product, that's 10% of everything else that I do, and that my team does. And so like but I have to say, because I was getting so many emails, and just to put a plug out there, during COVID, because we weren't in production, I had time, I started this thing called the Independent Producers Association of Public Media, where PBS and public television needs younger voices, they need more diverse voices. And so I put, if you go to ipapublicmedia.com, it's a free resource that I created of basically how to produce, distribute, and fund your series or your show or your documentary film so that you can distribute on public television. And it's a really insane format of distributing your show. It's not like normal television, but it's an incredible tool, and audience, and it's educational, informational, and entertaining programming. I'm so proud to be part of the PBS system, but now it's there for free. So when I get emails from people, I say, good luck, here's this website that I put out, I did myself, it's free, read through every single piece of content. And then once you do that, then you can get back to me in maybe a month or two, because it'll take you that long to get through everything. And if you have any more questions, I'm more than willing to help, but do the homework, and I've had producers reach out to me that I've never met, and they're like, you don't know me, I've been using your website, and now our show is airing on PBS. And it's like, holy cow, it works, so it's
Yeah.
there. It's there, and I'm more than happy to share it with the world, because I think we need more diversity. We need different viewpoints on public television and PBS. It can't just be old white guys, right? Like that
Yeah.
it's been for such a long time. And I'm friends with a lot of those old white guys. They're very good friends of mine. I love them. But we need to have some new blood running in the PBS system for sure.
Yeah, thank you. And in just the travel storytelling space in general, I would definitely agree with that. Well, I want to get a little bit more into I guess, the why and the magic of what you're creating. And I know
Yeah.
that obviously, because this is an Emmy award winning, pardon me, and an Emmy award winning series, people are really resonating with the work you do and the stories you're telling.
Yeah.
Why do you think people Why do you think they're drawn to? Why do you think this speaks to them?
I think for a few reasons, because, and I hear this on a daily basis. I feel lucky enough that the show truly touches people. This was something I never expected. When I started Bare Feet, it was truly for like selfish reasons. I was like, I want to learn as many dances and try on as many costumes and go to as many places around the world. It's going to be so fun. And then what happened was along the way, dance and music are this universality. So anybody in the world can connect, whether you're a dancer or not. And most of our viewers are non-dancers. They don't consider themselves dancers. It's accessible, right? It's accessible to them. So even if someone doesn't look like them on camera, or doesn't sound like them, or doesn't practice the same religion as them, or doesn't eat the same food, or see that that dance is bringing joy, or that dance is helping them heal through this very hard time. Or I get that. I know that feeling. I can, it resonates with me. It's a universality. It's a universal feeling that we all have. So I think making that as the touch point for the show has been tremendous. Like, my goal was also to show like dance is accessible. You don't have to be, because in the media we only see So You Think You Could Dance, Dancing with the Stars, America's Best Dance Crew, So You Think You've Got Talent. Like, these are professional dancers that have been training their whole lives, which is incredible. But dance is also not that. Dance is also people in the kitchen making music together and doing these incredible dances together to build community, or outside in the fields, or in celebration in the streets. And it was this way of people realizing that maybe if this girl who looks like a normal person, right? Like, I'm a genuinely normal looking person. And when I say normal, like, there's nothing flashy about my appearance or my approach. And I think that makes it accessible too. I'm not a trained journalist. Like I said, I had no TV background or production background. So I'm technically breaking all these rules, journalism rules. Like, I show myself crying. I'm very vulnerable on camera. I break the fourth wall a lot, and I talk to camera. And the reaction I've gotten from viewers is like, I feel like I'm with you. I don't feel like I'm just sitting here watching something. I feel like I'm actually with you, because I'm also immersing myself in the culture through dance, right? I'm not just sitting here as this traveler, like, wow, look at these beautiful dancers. Isn't this an interesting culture that I've never seen? No, I like get in the nitty gritty and I jump in with them head on, and I fall on my face a lot, but then I pick myself up and have a wonderful time. And I think that's what people feel connected to. I've had people come up to me and like, they're like freaking out, and they're like, I feel like I know you. I feel like you're my friend, like, because I genuinely, what you see on camera is what you get. There's no BS. I'm not an actress. Can't remember lines. I'm just playing myself on television. My cousin, we were joking about this the other night. When I was a kid, I used to put on shows with I have a ton of cousins because I come from a big Italian family. And we'd put on shows in my living room or in our backyard in the summers. And I'd be bossy and tell them, have costumes for them to wear and direct them. And my cousin now, he's like, you're doing exactly what you used to do as a kid. Now you just get paid for it. And it's like, yeah, I get to play. I get to play with the world. Not only do I get to connect with the people of the places where I'm going, but then the audience connects with me. And then what's the best play is when I get to meet those audience members, like in real life, walking down the street, or when we do our Bare Feet live events and we're bringing dance and music to the communities and we have them dance. And I can't be the only one having the best time of my life, right? I want the people that are watching the show to be inspired to either try dance or maybe try something that they love. The other reason why it resonates is because I really care. I love dance. I love music. I love connecting with people. When you see that smile on my face, it's real, because I am so excited to be in that place and these people are sharing something that they love so much. So if you find something that you love in a community of doing whatever that is, painting, bird watching, cooking, drinking, going to distilleries or breweries, like whatever that is, you find your tribe, and it's real joy. It's real joy. So I think it's that genuine connection. Like I genuinely, can I swear on this
Yeah,
podcast?
I can add a note.
Add a little
Go
bleep.
ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I give a shit, like I really give a shit. And it's 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 people see that. They can read through bullshit too. It's
Yeah.
really easy to read through that. And I'm a New Yorker. I am a no BS person. I don't like, I'm not it's funny, even when we film and we say the hellos, we always have our crew ready to have that genuine hello, because we've tried it before where it's like, oh, the lighting was off or something, and we'll try it again. I'm like, we're not using this because it's not real, so we just end up doing voiceover. And but when it's those real first hellos, I'm like, we get to meet. I've been talking to you for months, and those are real.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the universality, it's the connection, it's the joy, but I think it's really the universality of it. Like people connect with dance and music in a instinctual way,
Yeah,
right?
that's what I was going to say. Even as I was preparing for our conversation and I was watching, I was thinking, as the soul of travel, like this is literally it, right? Dance and music is that soul of so many communities, and it's
Mhm.
like it's so deeply human, and it's really almost primal, right? And
Yeah,
so like you were saying, it breaks down everything, because you can just stand next to another human and move next to another human without all of these other things that we sometimes layer upon an interaction.
yeah,
And the other thing that I love about it, especially for me, is the way that it really shares the essence of a culture, because for so many places this is something that goes back forever within their lineage, right? And I feel like we miss out on this a lot in the United States,
mhm.
because we don't have that same, like, everyone doesn't have the same background that is held together by like a same sort of dance or like commonality. And so we have this great diversity, but we don't have this unification. And I think sometimes when you travel somewhere and you feel that deep connection that is held within dance and music, like you can really drop into something really magical. And like for me, that's usually with gathering with women and in spaces with women, but I also definitely see that when I watch you, and I see you have that moment where you're like, yes, this is like, I'm really witnessing and participating in something really special. And yeah, I think maybe that also people are seeking that kind of
Mhm.
deep connection, and that's what they get through this.
Yeah, I mean, talking about the United States, we filmed 2 seasons in New York, 3 seasons
Hmm.
actually, over the course of Bare Feet. But the last 2 seasons, 5 and 6, were filmed all throughout the 5 boroughs of New York City. And that is the beauty of the United States. Like you said, the diversity is the beauty, but it's really the access to so many different cultures. I come from an Italian American community, which is very different from an Italian community in Italy.
Hmm.
So, having coming from an immigrant community and understanding what it means to feel different growing up. But both my parents, my father especially, has a very, very thick accent. We cook in the house every meal. We don't eat out. My parents, we jar tomatoes every year. I go back to Italy and harvest the olives, and like we're old school, right? But even so, we're different from people who actually live in Italy. Um, but that's why I'm drawn to these immigrant communities here in the United States, because I feel an affinity towards that experience. I have my own experience in that. And I want to celebrate that, because growing up, we celebrated it within our own community, but it wasn't always celebrated outside of that. Right. And it's like, no, this is something really special. And it's beautiful to share with other cultures as well. It's not about being insular, it's about celebrating it on multiple levels. And I think, especially for our New York seasons, um, that's been such a mission, and especially to cultures that don't always get the attention they deserve or even featured in media at all. So
Yeah.
that's been a real mission for our new seasons for sure.
Yeah, I loved that as well, watching some of those and just how, like you said, how empowering it is to put a spotlight on maybe some cultures that are not being presented in the media or not being seen within the city or within the country.
Yeah,
And that the dance is so often, and music is it's just such a glue for so many of those experiences, no matter what the music or the dance is. It's like that
totally.
a piece that like brings people together.
Totally, totally. A perfect example is the Garifuna community in New York. You know, I've had New Yorkers come up to me and be like, I never knew about these people. Thank you. It was a love letter to them, right? And the music is amazing, the dance is amazing. And then people who aren't from that community want to try it. And they're like, now I know something about it and I know who these people are. And it's an amazing story. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah, it's been great.
finding things around us, I think, is really important too, because a lot of people don't have access to international travel, but to realize, I mean, especially in New York City, that's definitely something in and of itself. But there are communities like that around us, no matter where we are, that we often just aren't aware of. And again, like music festivals, those kinds of things are such great ways to kind of immerse yourself for a moment in another culture within your own area. I wanted to go back when you were talking about one of the things that people really connect to is your relatability. Because I think it's really important. One, totally true. I love that the few times that I've seen you at events or like spoke to you in person and then I watched the show, it's very weird. It's kind of disjointing because you're like, that's just right. That's like really real, which is great. But then the other thing about that, I think, is representing women as travelers, which is, I think, something that is so important. Anyone who watches travel shows knows that there's very few female travel hosts. But in the industry, we know that most travel decisions are made by women. Most solo travelers are women. The dominant travelers are women. So to see women traveling is so important. And not only that, to see real women traveling. And I honestly, I've watched you and I've thought, man, like she just looks so real. And it's like the best compliment. I'm like, it makes
Thank
me
you.
so happy that like your hair is not super fancy, or like I will watch. And I also do this with Samantha Brown. I'm like, how do they have their hair cut so that it's not being destroyed by humidity? Or like what must they have packed so that they look like a real human and they can still like travel? Because these are hard things to do as a professional
Yeah.
traveler. But
Yeah.
like, but more important than that is like I see myself in you and I feel like I can do that too. Like if she can do that, that is available for me. And the same thing, like, watching Samantha growing up, I was like, man, she's like my big sister doing these things. And a lot of my guests have said the same thing. Like, that was the person that maybe made them feel like they had permission to also
Yeah.
travel to all of these places. So I would love to hear from you. Like, what have you heard along those lines with people sharing their feedback of what it's like to see someone like themselves really traveling?
Yeah. So first off, big shout out to Samantha Brown. She's been a hero to all of us, you know, any female traveler. And I can like, I still can't believe she's my friend. She's a colleague of mine. She's my mentor. She's my shiro. She's like, we're genuinely friends, which is insane to me when I think about it. I remember watching one of her episodes flying on a trapeze and be like, I want to do that someday, you know? And the the most amazing part about Sam is she's the biggest champion for all women. So you're right, 85% of all travel decisions are made by women. It's incredible how underserved and underrepresented we have been, and we were much more in the past. And so that's why I'm one of the co-founders of the Women's Travel Fest, because we were like Kelly Lewis, who's the other co-founder, and she kept it going. Um, we were like, there must be a conference for women. You know, this was, I guess, now 12 years ago, and there wasn't. And so we're like, we're going to start it. And we thought, who would be the most amazing keynote speaker? And we're like, Samantha Brown. And we got her, and she was lovely. She didn't know us from Adam, and she had just had her twins. And she's like, I want to be in a room filled with all these other women who feel empowered by travel, and the idea of travel is the first of its kind. So Samantha's been a real cheerleader for all of us and paved the way for all of us. And she's constantly pushing up new voices that need to be heard, whether that's in the BIPOC community, the LGBTQ community, the disability community, anybody, not just women. Like, she is a champion. So flowers to Sam. We love her, and she's changed all our lives. What was your question? Oh, what is the feedback?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is what I'm most proud of, is that my audience is just as diverse as the people I feature on my show. That's the truth. Like, when I first started the project, a lot of my fans looked like me, right? And then as our stories became more diverse and my stories were going out to different audiences, it was the people that didn't look like me that felt connected to me that was even more impactful. Like, this is amazing. This is amazing that our stories are touching all these folks, no matter what background, no matter what socioeconomic background, no matter what age, no matter what ethnicity they identify with, no matter what gender or sexuality they identify with. It's incredible. So I think, again, giving a platform, because my show has grown over the years, of, yes, people feel like I'm their friend, because I'm genuinely having the best time of my life making this show. And I hope that comes through, because I really am it's so fun. But at the same time, featuring cultures and dances and people that they recognize and they see as part of their own community. And this little girl's going in there and she's jumping right in. So if they like her and they think she's okay, maybe she's okay. Like, I think that's how it kind of works, is like, and I don't even think about it that way. I'm just like, I just want to try as many dances, and these people are amazing. And we become friends, because what you don't see is all the calls back and forth of like setting up the shoots and planning out the ideas of what we're going to feature and how this pans out in the whole story of the episode. So again, they become my friends. These are people that I can pick up the phone and I go see them make music and play, especially here in New York, right? The international ones, it's harder to stay in touch, but I do. And I think that's where it's the accessibility of not being so distanced from the culture. Because most travel hosts, and when I talk about, there was an interesting article in the New York Times, it was like, the problem with celebrity travel shows are the celebrities.
Mhm.
And it's true, because a lot of these people don't travel like a normal human being, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't travel like they do. I made this show because this is how I traveled for fun. And a lot of these folks travel business class, have been traveling business class forever. They don't know how to relate to people. What my biggest pet peeve is, when a show is in a destination, like, here's my friend who's an expat living in whatever city, international city. And it's like, you can't even find someone who's from there and lives there and this is part of their culture. You can't even do that bare minimum. It drives me nuts. It's always an expat friend. Fine, have an expat friend, but like, feature someone who's from there. And I think there's this, it's hard to show connection on camera. It's harder than people think. And when they try and do it, they're like, damn, it is really hard. So it's sort of like, before you even start thinking of an idea of creating content, like, can you go and travel and connect with folks on a basic level? Do that when you're traveling. Do that when you're traveling in your own backyard. Go talk to the guy at your favorite bodega. Go talk to your guy that you in your favorite coffee shop in your own neighborhood. Can you have conversation with people? And I think that's what we're missing, is like connection. People feel more connected with this, but they don't know how to have a connection like in human IRL, in real life,
Yeah.
right? And it's building that muscle and flexing that muscle. And I think that's why people are also drawn to this show, because if you meet me on the street, I say hello. I'm a New Yorker, but I like say hello and good morning to people, because it's just like who I am. And people get a smile on their face. And you know what's the best sound to hear is your name. So when I meet people, whether it's like a bartender or a barista at a cafe or anybody, I always ask their name. Or a fan, I always introduce myself because they know who I am. I don't know who they are. They're a complete stranger to me. So it's like just hearing their name, they're like, oh, that person cares about me. Simple things, really simple things. I don't know if that answered your question. That
That's
kind of
a
went on a tangent.
that's always the best part. That's why we have an hour-long podcast, because the tangents are like
Yeah,
the magic. So, but I
yeah,
I totally agree. I do think it's the connection. People really miss it. I mean, we are beholden to our digital world that we live in, and we really miss connection. And even
mhm,
watching someone else experience connection feels like it's possible. It feels
yeah,
like, a part of our soul is longing for that. And so it's beautiful, and we witness that beauty. And I think that's what is really important. And I also love that you brought up, I was just reading the same article as well about celebrity hosts, and then I was reading an article about Padma Lakshmi and kind of her show that she's doing, and how she was trying to really be conscious of not being a celebrity in the experience, and just trying to use like her platform, but to bring other people into that space. And
yeah,
um yeah, I think that's also something we just have to think of in travel storytelling, is really just thinking about the space that we're holding and creating. And there's so many pieces of it, and I think we learn more and more every year about how to do it better, and how to create more equality in storytelling. And I think it's always great to bring that conversation to light. Well, I had like 5 million other questions for you, but before we wrap up, because we're going to hit our hour mark here,
sorry,
I'm
I know
that's
I talk
okay.
a lot.
No, it's perfect. That, like I said, that's exactly why we're here. I wanted to give you the opportunity to share about the tours that you're bringing back with Bare Feet Tours, and that you're going to Ireland, I believe. So I want to let you share
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, so Ireland is one of my favorite countries in the world, and it's because the people are so nice. They're just so gosh darn welcoming and kind. And dance and music is such an integral part of the culture. So I just got back for St. Patrick's Day, and we're heading back to Ireland end of August and early September. It's about an 8-day tour where you travel with me. It's a small group tour, 15 passengers max. And I take you around Dublin, County Clare, and through the Wild Atlantic Way in County Kerry, in one of my favorite places called the Dingle Peninsula. And we have all of these amazing dance and music experiences, along with food and nature. And you're with me, and you get to meet all of the friends that I've made along the way. Like the reaction I get from past travelers, they're like, these are really your friends. I was like, of course they're really my friends. I'm bringing you in on my world. Like, this is real. And so I think for them, that was the most beautiful part, was they actually felt connected to the place, because I brought them in as like, here are my friends, and this is my new friend who's part of my tour, and this is my friend as the person who lives here, and we're making this beautiful connection. And so yeah, if you go to barefeettours.com, all the information is there. Again, it's limited spots, so we have a few spots left, but it is over Labor Day weekend. So we pushed a little earlier this year so we could fit it in. And travel overall costs have gone up. So if you saw the price of the trip from last time, it's a little bit more, just because prices have gone up in travel in general. But it's a really, really beautiful tour. Again, small group tour. I've curated it totally myself. And again, they're all people that I love and adore on the island of Ireland. And it's just this beautiful, immersive experience of Ireland. It's not a get Ireland all in one week. That's not what it is at all.
Mhm.
It is, I've had so many travelers that come on this trip and they're like, oh my gosh, this was amazing. Now I want to keep coming back and doing these like more concentrated trips in parts of Ireland, because Ireland's not a big country, but it's so dense in culture and food and dance and the people. It's just the people that make it amazing. So
Yeah.
join me. It's really fun.
Yeah. And I love how you were talking about the group travel experiences, because I have that sometimes too. Like, people have like the, 12 countries in 8 days version of group travel. And there's something different that I feel like people like you and I, that just, one, like deeply love travel, and two, deeply love connection. Like it is friends. Like I'm just looking and planning some of my next few trips, and like we're literally going to go stay with my friend Molly north of the Arctic Circle at her property. We're going to go stay with my friend Poonam in India. Like it literally is my friends. And then the people that come with me, like I spend time getting to know them before we travel. And then when you leave, you are
Your family, your
family.
family.
Yes. And
Yeah.
it's such I think people are maybe just learning about how to be able to travel like that, because it's in groups with people that they don't know. Like I think group travel is shifting, and people really want that deep personal connection. And like maybe they think it's marketing gimmick that you're like, we're going to meet all my friends, and then it happens, they're like, oh my gosh, that is absolutely what happened. And then like you will then really crave those kinds of experiences, right? Because they're
Yeah.
so,
I
again,
think,
nourishing, I think.
yeah, I think also too, we've been conditioned to, it's like the wedding industry, right? Bigger the better. I think we've been conditioned for so long that if you travel, it's like the bucket list, ticking off the boxes, get in as much as you can in one trip, because you never know when you're going to get back out traveling again, especially for first timers, if this is their first international trip, or maybe people that don't travel not nearly as much as we do. It's what you think you're supposed to do. We've been conditioned to think this. But then when you have, like, I'm sure for you, and especially for me, it was by accident where I had these experiences, or it was just innate in the way I was traveling, where it's like, this is the way I travel. And if I had to do just like sitting on a coach bus and just being shuffled around, that to me, that's not fun. Even if I'm back home, I'm not going to want to sit on a bus in New York and going to DC and Boston and Philly within 5 days. Like that sounds like a nightmare to me, you know? So it's just putting that into perspective of, you don't have to do what everyone is always telling you, right? It's doing what that actually feels good, and what should, slow down, stay in a place longer. It's better for the environment. It's more sustainable. It's more culturally sustainable for the destinations you're going to. You're going to be putting more money into the local economy, and then the people that live in that place can live there and stay there and keep their businesses running. Like Dingle, I do a whole talk about sustainability, cultural sustainability through travel. And it's not about the, not one-time use plastics and, getting your sheets clean. Of course, we know not to do those things, but it's the other idea of, is my travel to this place detrimental to the people that are living here? Or is it a benefit? Or is it neutral, right? You have to think about these things. Dingle, for example, 90% of the businesses in Dingle town are family owned. I don't know anywhere else in the world where it's like 90% of the businesses of this little town are family owned. So you're meeting the owners, their families, their money's going back and putting food on their table and keeping a roof over their head right in the same town. It's very empowering as a traveler. And we're travelers. Don't say, oh, I'm a local. We're tourists. I'm a tourist when I go to Ireland. No matter how many times I go, and how many people I know there, I'm going, and I need to be respectful to that culture and to that place. And that's what we need to remember as well, especially as Americans. Like, just because we're spending money there doesn't mean we can do whatever we want. If you have to treat it as if your friend's home, you're going to someone's home. And yeah, that's my soapbox moment, right? I know we're running out of time, but
no, it's so
it really is
perfect.
important. Yeah.
Yeah, it is really important. And that was one of the things I wanted to ask you, was about slow travel and being more mindful and impactful. So I'm so glad we got it in there anyway. The last thing I have, if you still have time, is a few rapid fire questions that we're gonna wrap up. So we'll jump into those. The first one is, what are you reading right now?
What am I reading right now? I am teaching a course at NYU based on my show. It's been one of my goals since I started Bare Feet, and I'm rereading this book called Your Brain on Art, which is an incredible book, and I really love that book. And so that's what I'm reading. You should read it. It's about how art, consuming art and making art, whatever form of art that is, like, is necessary for our mental health, physical health, and like just being human. It's amazing. Your Brain on Art.
Thank you. We'll make sure we have it in the show notes. What is always in your suitcase or backpack when you travel?
A scarf.
Yep.
Like a shawl. It can act as a shawl. It can act as a pillow. If I go into a church or a mosque, I can cover my head. It can act as a blanket when I'm on a flight. Yeah, a scarf.
Oh my
always.
gosh, I have to, if I can manage, because I never create this kind of content, but do a reel from the episode that came out this like four before yours, but I almost said the exact same thing that you just said about a scarf. I need to just put it side by side. Would be
Yeah,
hilarious.
yeah,
Okay.
amazing.
To sojourn is to travel somewhere as if you live there for a short while. So I know that's something that you love about travel. Where is some place you would still long to sojourn?
That I haven't been to yet?
Yeah.
Oh
Is there
man,
anywhere
so
left?
so many. I haven't been to a lot of places. We are going to New Zealand for season 7. And I've always wanted to dance with the Maori people, and now I'm going to be able to do that. That's going to be in July. So that's something I've wanted to do for so long.
Oh my
So
gosh, I cannot wait to see that. That's going to be
yeah,
incredible.
no.
What do you eat that immediately connects you to a place you've been?
Oh man, everything. Does that make sense? Chai tea. Indian chai brings me back to Mumbai. I love like a really good chai. Oh, that's the best. That's the
Yeah.
best.
Who was a person that inspired or encouraged you to set out and explore the world?
Oh, I would say my mom. My mom, she wanted to be a flight attendant and she wanted to be a travel agent, and due to circumstances she just couldn't do it. And so I'm kind of like living out her life's dream, which is amazing.
Yeah. If you could take an adventure with one person, fictional, real, alive, or past, who would it be?
Michelle Obama, I've wanted to dance with her. I can't even tell you for how long. I love her and I love that she dances and I love that she jumps right in. I feel like we would have so much fun. I would love to dance with her and travel with her.
Oh my gosh,
Love
yeah,
her.
that would also be an incredible episode. And I feel like that is not without, that's like within reach. So
I've been trying. It's gonna happen. It's like I see it. So it is
yeah,
gonna happen at some point.
I
At
also
some point.
can very clearly see it in my mind's eye. So I think it's true. It's already done.
Yeah.
The last question, who is one woman in the travel industry that you admire and would love to recognize in this space?
Oh, Samantha Brown, always, 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 always. She has been a champion, like I said before, a champion for all women, but she really, and her husband too, Kevin O'Leary, who's her producer, the two of them are a powerhouse couple. And she really is, she's a workhorse. She works her butt off. And she's brilliant. She's hysterical. I don't think people understand how funny she is. Um, she's just a brilliant, brilliant woman, and I love her. And she really travels like a normal person. All of her travel tips are from just the 20 plus years of her actually traveling with and without her family. And she's just wonderful. I love her so much. She's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for mentioning her again, all the love for sure. I know from so many of us to her. I really appreciate this conversation. It was so fun. I wish we had more time, but I really appreciate this time together and can't wait to like see all of the your vision continue to come to life in the future, and especially New Zealand. Like I just can already see how big the smile is on your face. So it's going to be such a good episode.
Thank you, Christine. Thanks for having me. Great seeing you again.
Yep, good to see you too.
Yeah.
Thank you.